Hey everyone, welcome to the Identity Love Podcast, episode 29. I'm Tracy and I am a life coach and identity specialist for folks who have lost themselves in their relationships and in life and do not know how to be themselves. And so I not only help you to know exactly how it is to be yourself, but to actually love being yourself and enjoy being yourself so you can be the person you've always wanted to be in your relationships and your entire life. This is an episode that I have actually been leading up to with the previous episodes. If you haven't yet listened to episodes 27 and 28, I suggest you listen to these either before you continue listening to this or right after you listen to this so it can all go together, because it is a nice trifecta to help you to understand this huge problem that so many of us partner pleasers are dealing with when it comes to self-love and learning how to be good at being ourselves. And this thing is feeling selfish when we are doing stuff for ourselves for the first time in our lives and in our relationships. So many of us are starting to pay more attention to ourselves and look at what we want to be doing for ourselves and what we actually want in our lives and for ourselves. And then the moment we start to even think about doing it, we have this twinge of guilt and self-judgment and feeling bad, and we feel selfish for thinking of doing such a thing. We think about how it's going to affect our partners negatively. We think about how it's going to affect other people in a bad way. We feel like if I'm doing this thing that is only benefiting me, isn't that a selfish thing? And then what ends up happening is that we don't do the things, or we start to do these things and we feel bad the whole time while doing it. And so we don't end up getting any kind of benefit at all from it. We just feel guilty and feel like we have to go check in with people and make up for it. And this is something that is very normal and very prevalent in this journey to self-love. And so I really wanted to address this in this podcast. This is about selfishness versus self-love. And I want you to really listen closely to this and think about the way that you have been thinking about self-love all this time. Again, nobody ever teaches us this. So if you feel like you've been thinking in this way, it is not your fault. And you are able to change going forth because you're thinking in a new way about this. So I'm going to give you some analogies as I normally do. And then I'm going to give you an exact definition of selfishness versus self-love. And I think it's an amazing definition, and I'm going to really break it down for you folks. So make sure you listen to the whole thing, especially if you are struggling with feeling bad with doing the things that you know you need to be doing for yourself in life. So imagine that you really want to get your driver's license. Okay, this is a thing that you really want to do. You're ready to put the time and effort and energy in doing this thing that might feel a little scary, right? Because you've never done it before, but you really want to be able to drive a car. So think about, why do you want to get your driver's license? It is because you can go places. You can go to the grocery store. You can visit your family and friends. You can drive out of state or out of the country even. You can go wherever you want, whenever you want. And you don't have to wait for public transportation schedules or when someone's available to take you somewhere. You can go whenever you want. It is up to you. And you know it's just going to make your life so much easier, so much more freeing, so much more efficient. And you're going to feel so good and independent once you are able to have your driver's license and be able to take yourself anywhere. So think about this. When you are going to try to get your driver's license, it is all about you, right? You're the one who is with the driver instructor, who is putting all of their attention on you, helping you to take the time and energy and effort to learn this skill. And you are the one who's going to take the test and have the driver's license, and you are going to get to drive around and feel so excited and free and proud of yourself and have a much better time. And no one else is going to have their license, right? You're not doing all of this so somebody else can get their license. You're not doing this so other people will then know how to drive as well. You are just doing it for your own benefit, for getting your own driver's license, right? So is this selfish? Should you feel bad and guilty because you're going through all this time and effort just to benefit yourself? Just so you can drive around and enjoy driving yourself wherever you want? No, we do not see it as selfish. We see it as something good because you know that over time, it will benefit other people in our lives. You know that when you're able to drive, all the benefits that you'll get from it will over time benefit others. You'll no longer have to wait around and ask people for rides. You won't have to say, hey, can you come pick me up? You won't say, oh, I can't come because the bus doesn't go to that one place. You won't have to tell loved ones that you can't come and visit them. You'll be able to pick people up and give them rides if you want to. And you'll be in a better mood. You will be happier. You'll have a better quality life. And when you're in a better mood, you know that just trickles out and down to everybody else in your life. It seems so obvious to us. We are actually being less selfish by doing this thing that benefits us. And it's the same thing when we're going to go get a degree or training or advancing a career in some way. It is your degree and it is your career advancement. You are the one who is taking all the time and effort to focus on your own individual self, to learn the things that you need to learn to get your degree or training, certification, or career advancement. It's all about you, right? You're not getting somebody else's degree or advancing someone else's career. But is that seen as selfish? Is that seen as something that you should feel bad and guilty about? No, right? Because in the long run, you're going to be able to have a degree or a certification or a career that will make it so that you don't have to rely on others so much, right? You can actually contribute more because you did this thing for yourself. And we see doing these things as the responsible thing to do in life. We see it as being self-sustaining, as bringing something to the table, as holding our own in life. We see this as a good thing. So there are two things to take away from this analogy that I just made. The first thing is when you are learning how to take care of your own wants and needs, you know that over time, others will benefit from it. Even though it seems like it's just about you in the moment, where you're the one who is focusing on doing this thing for yourself, you understand logically that by you doing this, being able to pull your own weight and have your own happiness and freedom in being able to do something more for yourself, you are going to therefore benefit others in the long run in turn because of it. So that's the first thing. The second thing is understanding that if you are trying to learn how to do something, but you are thinking about it as being self-serving and selfish, and it's a bad thing and greedy, you will then feel bad every time that you are trying to learn how to do this. And therefore, you are not going to continue long enough to eventually get to the degree or the advancement in your life or the career placement, right? Because every time that you're trying to learn how to do it, you feel horrible doing it. You feel like a bad person for doing it. So you never achieve it. And so many of us have taken so much time and effort to accomplish things in our lives that we never saw as selfish. We always saw it as a good thing, as something that is going to get us ahead in life, but also contribute more in our lives. Yet when it comes to the things that are going to give us our own identity and self-love, we tend to see it as something that is only going to benefit us, and thus somehow we are hurting others, we are being selfish, we are a bad person. And so when we are judging ourselves like that, and we make ourselves feel bad about it, that means that we are not actually getting closer to the self-love because we're not doing the things that we need to be doing in order to get there, because we're villainizing ourselves in the process of it. And if we never get good at being ourselves, at loving ourselves, we are always going to feel like something is missing from our lives. We're never going to get to that place that we so want to, that we know we're going to benefit so much from, and that we know we're going to be so much better in our lives from. So even though we know we really want to achieve this thing because logically we know it's good for us and that we'll be better for others, when we start doing it and we start to think of it as selfish, we automatically stop wanting to do it and we doubt ourselves and we never make the progress we want to make in our lives. So this is why it is so important and why I really wanted to break this down in this episode. So now this leads up to a definition of selfishness versus self-love that I think is super amazing and really sums everything up in a very powerful way. So I found this online at herediatherapy.com, and it is an article written by Dr. Christina Gomez. I will link it in the show notes. You can go and read it. It's a quick read. But within this article, I found this amazing breakdown of this definition, okay? So this is by Dr. Christina Gomez. Selfishness is the act of taking from others, using others, and even abusing others in order to get what we want without consideration for their well-being. Self-love is taking care of our own wants and needs without taking advantage of others in the process. Okay? I'm going to read this again because this is really good. Selfishness is the act of taking from others, using others, and even abusing others in order to get what we want without consideration for their well-being. Self-love is taking care of our own wants and needs without taking advantage of others in the process. Wow. This is the best definition I have come across of contrasting the two things. So again, think about how I just explained it in the terms of getting a license or a degree or a career advancement. When we are learning to drive a car or get ahead in life, are we taking from and using and abusing others to get this thing that we want without consideration for their well-being? Do we think of it that way? No, right? Even though we know we're going to be taking time and attention away from our partners or our loved ones in our lives while we are pursuing these things, we don't see it necessarily as this super selfish thing because we know that we're taking care of our own wants and needs in order to be better for the world, for everybody else, for our lives. We're able to contribute more. So now, when we start to do things that are self-love, that are putting ourselves and our own inner needs first, taking better care of ourselves, listening to ourselves, is that taking from, using, or abusing others? And I feel like some of you might think that this is a trick question because you're like, wow, it seems like me taking attention and time away from somebody else is taking from them. But I want you to listen to podcast 27 again about responsibility. Your partner is not a baby. You may call your partner baby and some other cute, affectionate names, but your partner is a grown adult. Think back to the definition of selfishness being the act of taking from, using others, or even abusing others to get what you want without consideration for their well-being, right? So if you take a day to stop caring for and spending time with and giving love to a baby, an actual human baby, if you step back one day and you're like, you know what, I need time for myself, so I'm not going to give attention to or love and care for this baby for a day. That would be taking from, using, and abusing, right? That is abuse because the baby is actually reliant on you to help provide for its well-being, to take care of it. Something bad might happen if you ignore this baby for a day. So you would be being selfish. You would be taking from and abusing something if you did that with a baby. Okay, but your partner is an adult. You actually do not have to be around for 24 hours, taking care of them, giving them love, giving them attention, reassuring them, tending to them. Same with your grown family members. You actually do not have to be pandering to them at all times. So it is not abuse or using or taking from an adult when you take time to do the self-love things. When we're leaving the house to go to work or school, we don't think about that as taking away from our partner's love. We're not like, oh my goodness, I shouldn't be going to work or school right now. I shouldn't have to make money or get my degree. I should just be here at home so I can give my partner more love. I won't have to take anything away from them. And I'll just rely on them financially because then I'll be able to give them more love anyway. No, right? That doesn't make sense because we're not over there pulling our own weight. Okay? We don't see it as this selfish thing. We see it as a good thing to take the time and energy to be able to support ourselves. Okay, so just in case you felt conflicted about the idea of taking from, we're not actually taking our love away from them. We are postponing it to a time when we can actually give it more fully, right? Go back to the podcast where I talk about how to balance self-love in your relationship. It is not about the quantity of love, of how much you are thinking that you're giving this love when you're actually needing their love back and you're feeling unhappy about yourself at the same time. So you're not actually truly giving love. You're kind of wanting from them, right? You're actually wanting to take from them. You're trying to take some love for yourself because you're not generating it for yourself. It's about the quality of love. You know that if you go and get your degree and your license and work on your career, you're going to have to take some time away from your partner and some attention away from your partner, but you know it is for a greater cause that will benefit the relationship in the long run, right? So it's the same mentality for the self-love. We are not taking anything away in the moment. We are tending to ourselves. We are taking care of our wants and needs in the same way that we would do anything, quote unquote, responsible and serious in our lives, because it is going to benefit us and benefit others. It is the responsible thing to do. So the adults in your life, and I know that there are some adults who do not act like adults. They actually are acting like children. They are acting like they need you to be around 24/7 to make sure that they are okay. And so I want you to think about that. In a very loving, understanding way, think about the people who might be guilt-tripping you or wanting you to feel selfish for doing something for yourself. There are going to be people in our lives who do love us, but are loving us from a selfish place where they're wanting us to be a certain way to make them happier. But we are thinking, oh, maybe I am being selfish because this person is saying that it is selfish of me to go and want to do these things that are actually taking care of my own wants and needs. We need to be aware of when someone else is being a little bit selfish towards us instead of just taking the blame for every single instance. There are so many times where clients think that they are being selfish because someone is putting the guilt trip on them and saying, well, why are you changing? You shouldn't be doing that right now. What about me? When it is that person who is saying that who is actually being selfish because they are not taking responsibility for themselves. Again, episode number 27 about responsibility is so important because we need to remember that if they are an adult, it is their responsibility to allow others, including yourself, to do what they need to do for their own well-being, to improve and expand upon their own lives. Okay, so this goes both ways. This is about realizing when we are actually not being selfish at all and we are actually doing the most responsible thing, which is taking care of our own wants and needs. And also when someone else is being selfish to us. And we might have not realized it before because we weren't defining it by this definition that I just gave you by Dr. Gomez. But now we can see, wait a minute, maybe it is them who is trying to put this selfishness judgment on me. And they are the ones who need to start taking responsibility for somebody in their lives changing, for adjusting and adapting to somebody else who wants to improve their own life. And that's for a whole nother episode. But I just want you to pay attention to the truth of these dynamics in our lives, because I know that when we're deep in it, we only think that it's us who are doing the bad thing, that it is us who is being selfish and taking away, when we are not actually taking away, using, or abusing somebody else. We have to be very clear on that. We are working with adults here. Your partner should be able to deal with and be responsible for their own thoughts and feelings and actions when their partner, which is you, is going forth and doing better things for themselves in their lives. So I want you to think about it whenever you start to feel the twinge of guilt or greediness or self-judgment when you are doing something out of self-love, when you are shifting things in your life and you start to feel a little bad and worried. I want you to think about the definition that I told you. Ask yourself, when I am doing this thing for myself, am I actually using or abusing somebody else and not considering their well-being? Am I actually doing that? Or am I doing something where I am taking care of my own wants and needs in order to not take advantage of others in the process? So I can support myself, so I can hold my own, so I can bring my own self-love into the relationship and in my life and no longer rely so heavily on others. Which is it? Doing things to make yourself like yourself more, to have your own identity more, to enjoy being yourself more, is a personal responsibility. It is taking care of yourself, of your own things and your own achievements and growth. So then you won't have to be taking someone else's love. You won't have to be relying on or needing somebody else. It is actually making things so much less selfish for ourselves because we are bringing it on our own. So remember, in the long run, when you are actually having the self-love and you are enjoying being yourself, you are going to benefit so many other people in your life because you won't be relying on them and needing them to be a certain way for you to feel good about yourself, for you to feel loved. And you're going to be behaving in a much more loving, actually selfless, much more giving way, because you're not just thinking about, oh my gosh, what is this person thinking about me? How do I get them to love me more? Right? It's not about needing so much as it is just loving yourself and being able to love them. You're actually able to give and provide so much higher quality love and presence to the people in your life and support, right? You're going to be so much better during difficult times when you are already feeling good about who you are and you're at peace and aligned within yourself, and you're not feeling like this is going to shake everything up and you're not going to get the love that you think you need from them. You're going to be able to hold your own. And when they do give you love, it's going to feel like a beautiful cherry on top of a cake that you already made. It's still going to feel good, but it's not going to feel like this desperate need where you just need more and more and more from them. It's going to be such a different vibe. It's going to be higher quality. When we think about the before of when we don't have a car and then after, I remember my life just felt so different after I had a car. I was like, this is so much better than before. I feel so much more free. I love that I don't have to ask anyone for anything. I can just go on my own. And I was just happier and in a better mood to be around. And that benefited so many others in my life. I want you to know that self-love is the same thing. The same thing as all those other amazing responsibilities and achievements that you have done in your life. And it is not something to be shamed or felt bad about. It is always going to benefit others in the long run when you are able to provide it for yourself. You are not taking or using or abusing somebody else when you are providing for yourself. Everyone is responsible for themselves as adults. You're not abusing them. They are not a baby who is reliant on you. They are able to carry on and take responsibility and cope with you doing the things that you need to do. Okay. And when you are able to let go of all this judgment and to not feel selfish and to not feel bad when you are doing the self-love things, you will actually stick with it long enough to start to see and feel the benefits of it. and start to then change your life so then others can start to see the change as well and be inspired by and affected positively by it. So I want you to see it this way. I want you to practice re-envisioning this and rewriting it in your head that self-love is not selfish. Okay, and I'm going to read the definition one last time before we go because it's so amazing. Selfishness is the act of taking from others, using others, and even abusing others in order to get what we want without consideration for their well-being. Is that what you're doing? Or are you doing the self-love, which is taking care of your own wants and needs without taking advantage of others in the process? So remember, everyone is responsible for their own reactions for themselves. Your partner is not a baby, not an actual human baby. Your partner is an adult. And so are you. And adults are responsible for their own self-love, for their own fulfillment in their lives, and for how they feel about themselves. All right, everyone, have an amazing week. I want you to think about selfishness, true selfishness, as taking, using, and abusing, and as self-love, as taking care of your wants and needs instead of putting it on others. Even if it feels like you're only benefiting yourself, think about the benefits in the long run. Think about how much higher quality, love, and enjoyment there's going to be because you are doing this. All right, take care. I will see you next week. Bye.